Hey guys, what is up? It is your good buddy Sam, and it's time for another exciting Maximus P tutorial. This is the part in the tutorial where I would engage you with witty and hilarious banter, but there's no time. So much to cover in this tutorial. Suffice it to say that 2d.wave tilde is a great goddamn object. I love it. I would sleep with it. It's amazing. Let's talk about it. So we open up Max, and Max is going to open in 2 seconds because I just got a solid state drive, and solid state drives are awesome. Everyone in the entire world should get one, including your mom. So we have this giant patch, and we're going to make it really big. And I'm going to put a 2d.wave tilde in it. 2d.wave tilde. Okay, question. What the hell is 2d.wave tilde? Well, it is a wavetable lookup thingy, just like play tilde or groove tilde, except play tilde and groove tilde read through a buffer linearly from beginning to end, and they suck. And what 2d.wave tilde does, they don't actually suck, but alright. Anyway, 2d.wave tilde, it takes your boring loops that are like this in a straight line and it chops them into rows. It chops the hell out of them. And then whereas with other lookup operators, you would give it just an x value and it would return to you an interpolated value from within the buffer, you give 2d.wave tilde both an x coordinate and a y coordinate, and it returns to you an interpolated value not only a certain distance into your buffer, but also cross-faded between different chunks of that same buffer. It's incredible. So, what does that sound like? We made a new thing, we got a 2d.wave tilde. Let's promptly close this patch because I decided that I want to use a project instead. Projects are a cool new feature in Max 6, and they rule, and what do? So make a new project called 2d_wave_demo, a nice boring name because we are nice boring people. And we can add a file to project. What the project does is, you see here, you've got patchers, media, code, data, other. It takes all that random crap that's usually spread all over your hard drive, and Max can never find any of it because Max sucks at finding stuff for some reason. And it puts it all in one place so Max can actually handle it. Anyway, so add new file. I'm going to call this tutorial 19, keeping with our nice boring names for things. And then I have a new patch called tutorial 19. It's incredible. I'm going to add to this 2 existing files. One is called dvno loop. This is a loop from a Justice song because I just went to a Justice concert and I like Justice. And I'm going to add another existing file from my desktop called universe 16. And now I'm going to take both of these, click them to create project local version and create project local version. That copies each of those into this project so that we don't have to worry about ruining the original, which is sitting on our desktop, pristine and virginal. Okay, no time. Let's focus. Talking about 2d.wave tilde. What are we doing? So first let's make a way too big. That's probably better. It's probably a little big till. Okay, so first we'll make a buffer and we'll give it the name loop and dvno_loop.aiff. And there it is. Cool. There's our audio. So now we make a 2d.wave tilde. Because we give it the name of the buffer, the initial start point, which is 0, the initial end point, which by telling it 0, we're saying just play through to the end, the number of output channels, which is 1, and the initial number of rows, which is 1. Could be anything, but it's 1 for now. So, what are we going to do? Well, there's basically 3 free parameters with which you can talk to a 2d.wave tilde. One is the number of rows, the other is the x coordinate, the other is the y coordinate, of course. So if we make the number of rows 1, that essentially puts 2d.wave tilde into boring mode, or I guess not really boring mode, let's call it foreplay mode. It just does, in foreplay mode, 2d.wave tilde just does what a regular boring wavetable lookup thingamajig would do, and it just reads through your audio in one straight line. So you'll see if we hook up a phaser, we hook it up to our 2d.wave tilde, and this happens to be an 8-second audio loop, so if I set the value of this phaser's frequency to be 0.125, which is 1/8, and the number of rows to 1, and turn up the sound, we should just hear this buffer play from beginning to end in 8 seconds. Go! Amazing at sound. Okay, so we got sound and it's incredible. Now if I change the number of rows to say 4 and the phaser to be 0.5 in its frequency, you're going to hear this thing just play the first 2 seconds of our sound at a normal speed. Not that incredible, but bear with me. So now what we can do is introduce another phaser. Plug it in here. This is the y coordinate, and this essentially tells 2d.wave tilde which of the rows of the buffer to actually use. And if it gets a value that's between two rows, it will interpolate between those two rows, which is to say it will cross-fade between them, which is to say it will mix them at an amount proportional to what you tell this phaser to do. So for now I'm going to set the frequency of this phaser to be 0 so that it stays at a constant value. And in case you didn't know, you can set the phase of a phaser here, which is to say how far along it is in its phase. So if I start up my audio again, and I set this guy to be 0. It's the first 2 seconds. 0.25 gives us the next 2 seconds. 0.75 gives us the last 2 seconds. And so on. Okay, so that covers all the basics. Now we can do things like set these all to really dangerously malignant values. So if we make this phaser something like this, and this phaser something really small, it makes this weird kind of texture. Do you hear that? How cool is that sound? It's the full-on Hypnotoad sound from Futurama. You can also make the number of rows something reasonable, and then make this phaser something really large. And essentially it reads through between all the rows so fast that most of what you hear is the aliasing that causes. Hear that? Pretty cool. Let's see, finally you can make the number of rows really big. And get a really cool texture this way that you could then drive with an envelope and make another cool sound come out. You can make everything really big and now stuff gets really, really weird. And you can just play with all these things at the same time. And get really, really cool sounds. You could play with this junk all day. I encourage you to dive in and toy around with it. You'll have an amazing time. Now, let's suppose, I said, I didn't know, wow, that was not even a sentence. So, 2d.wave tilde can do basically anything. For one thing, it can give you really cool, trancy, glitchy, dance vocal garbage like everybody seems to love these days. So, I'm going to load this buffer with something new. I'm going to replace universe 16.wave, and just so you get to hear it, this is what the original sound file, oh my life, oh my life, oh my days, this is what the original, oh my god, what's 1/16, 0.0625, is that right? This is what the original sounds like. You know there's no need to hide. Okay, that's what the original sounds like. Let's take that, chop it up, and make some crazy goddamn vocals out of it. So first thing we're going to do is cut it up into 16 rows. Next thing we're going to do, it happens to be a 16-second audio sample, so we want this phaser to phase at 1 second. Here's what that sounds like. That's just the first second looping. Awesome. It's really boring. So what we want to do is use this other phaser to jump to a random point within that audio file. So to do that, what I'm going to do is add a metro object and hook it up to a random object. Give that random the argument 15, which means it will spit out numbers between 0 and 15, and scale those numbers to be, let's see, 0, 15, 0 .1 point. No, that's wrong. Let's just do divided by 16. I happen to know that will work. Forget you, scale. You never help me anyway. So this will plug into this, and this will plug into this. And now if I turn on this metro and give it an argument of, say, 250, so 4 times a second, it's going to pick a new random location for this guy to be playing at. And that sounds like this. And now all we need is a dance beat, and we are dub-stepping it up. But there's one more cool thing we can do, and I'm going to show it to you right now. It's going to go a little quick, but you can just deal with it. So, zl.stream. What does the zl stream do? It takes the previous, say, 8 numbers in this case and streams them out. So if I have a Nice long message box here, and I turn this guy on. These are the most recent 8 numbers coming out of that box. Amazing. 8 random numbers, basically. I can hook that up to a zl.register object, pass it into the right inlet, and now I can hook up a bang over here. And now what this zl.register will essentially do is every time I hit this bang here, it will give me the last numbers that got passed in from the ZL stream to the ZL register. And essentially, those are 8 random numbers. What do I want those 8 random numbers for? Well, if I take those 8 random numbers and hook them up to another ZL.register, now this ZL.register will hold the most recent 8 random numbers. And I can throw in a ZL.env, and ZL.env will give me the nth entry into that list whenever I bang on it. So what I can do is add a counter, give it the argument 7, add a trigger bang integer, and now this counter will first spit out a number into nth to make sure that we grab the nth element of the list, then bang on this register to actually pass the list to ZL nth, and it will spit out the nth element of the list, which will be the same every time. Rather, the list will be the same every time. So that sounds like this. You can hear that which 8 places we're jumping to is repeating. But every time we push this button here, we get a different 8 samples. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so let's see. This should actually be 4. No, it should be 2. 32. Okay, so what else could we do? Well, you may have noticed that this number is 32 and this number is 2, which is to say we split into 32 rows and we're reading each row, we're reading through each row twice a second. So we can... So one thing we can do that's pretty interesting is we could chop it into more rows and read them faster and get a kind of stuttering effect. So to do that, all we do is take 32, 2, and we use a vexpr I1 times I2 at scalar mode 1. I know if you don't know what the hell's going on here, it could be very scary and confusing, but we'll just have to deal with it for now. I'll explain it in a second. No time to talk about what things are doing. Random 8, random 7, random 3 rather. So this metro bangs on this random. No, this metro first bangs on this trigger, that bangs on this random, that bangs on this 32-2, and this random plus 1 will either spit out of this plus 1 a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. And then that number goes into this vexpr, and that multiplies the 32 by that number and the 2 by that number, and you'll see that it spits out something that is one number that's 32 multiplied by something, another number that is 1 multiplied by something else. So this should probably be a 4 actually. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can unpack integer, and this vexpr is being unpacked and getting passed up to the number of rows and how fast we're reading through each row. And what this will do is make this really sexy stutter effect. We'll slap a really sexy stutter effect on top of our vocals. I'm going to clean up a little tiny bit, and by clean up I mean ruin everything, because I'm going to put shit on top of shit. And I said shit on top of shit because I'm stacking shit and wow, it's getting shitty. So anyway, let's hear how this sounds. Pretty cool! Oh my god. Okay, so that's some of the cool glitchy voice stuff that 2d.wave can do. And even going at a breakneck speed, my god, that took forever. So anyway, there is my 2d.wave furious 30-second closet quickie. But man, that was a good one. I'm sure I'm satisfied, and I hope you are too. And thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was really exciting and wonderful. And I will see you next time. Stop.